ChatGPT dropped in, everybody wants to slap off their products with the stamp of AI.
It was almost like an iPhone moment in terms of impact that I think it may be larger.
Most of the tools out there are skipping onto that step.
We'll just prompt and pray. So that's not going to work. People who can use AI and then be productive, those are the ones that are going to be part of this new way of working.
One word for where enterprise AI and software development really is right now.
That would be transforming.
Welcome to Tech Unplugged. I'm so glad that you're here with us. You took out your time.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So starting off, as we have so many questions for you today. So my first question goes like that: you started off your entire journey, as an engineer, and your startup Qontext that got acquired by Autodesk. So everybody who's there in this industry, they would like to climb the ladder, right? But you chose to come back to Wavemaker, and in around 2018, which we know. So it's less glamorous and smaller for you. So what was that, and why did you choose it?
Yeah, so when we got acquired, that was one of the great moments in my career. Autodesk was this desktop software company at the time, makers of AutoCAD, Maya, all these softwares that are very successful in the design industry for construction and manufacturing. So I worked there for 5 years. We transitioned the product that Autodesk bought into like enabling collaboration for Autodesk customers. So I worked there for 5 years, and we scaled that solution for Autodesk to many of their customers and helped the journey of transitioning from desktop software to cloud software. Right. So I felt like at that time um, there was we did achieve a milestone, and then I was looking to see what next for me, and I realized after reflecting that I enjoyed building something from scratch again. So that's when I decided get back with the friends or the people that I worked with before that and see what they're up to. And at that time, having been a developer and transitioned to leadership roles, I noticed that the software development as a practice, the productivity issues continue to linger, and at that time, it still is in that space. So I really like that the product was addressing that need. So that was convinced me to join Wavemaker. Yeah.
You never felt that maybe you took the wrong call, or were you always like that? This is exactly what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean that there is a difference between working in a smaller team versus working in a big Fortune 500 company that has offices all over the world. So there are different work styles, right? Uh, yeah, I just figured that for me personally, I just felt like I worked better in a smaller team that has mission focus, and they were just building uh, very quickly. So there's a lot of excitement when you are transitioning an idea from really early stages to a product, scaling it, earning adoption. So I really like that.
Wow, great. I mean, you took this decision back then in 2018, right? When AI was not that prevalent and people were not talking about it. Every now,
Right.
ChatGPT dropped in. Everybody wants to slap off their products with the stamp of AI, right? So, why did you take this call of just waiting for the right moment to come in rather than doing something about it back then?
Yeah. So like you said, ChatGPT when they released and took the world, by storm, right? It was almost like an iPhone moment in terms of impact that I think it may be larger even, right? And then we started seeing this transition into AI being able to generate code. And this thing, at the time, the quality of the code that was getting generated was not high, and we knew that it was only a moment in a matter of time before that improved, and then the way software would develop would change forever, right? So We were not waiting. So at that time we already had a product that addressed developer productivity. So we were in the vertical of improving developer productivity before ChatGPT, right? So we knew what are the problems that kept people from releasing their apps, whether web or mobile apps. And we were working with uh, really big ISV vendors who then built their apps and then sold it to markets. So we had a perspective that for AI to work with, to get AI to work on enterprise use cases, we needed a different approach than simply generating code on top of the models that existed.
Most of the people and most of the tools are still doing the same, I believe.
Yeah. So that's right, and there is a market for that. In that there is a set of developers who are experts at what they do, and they're able to manage the code that other developers created in their team or AI created. But that's not always the case, right? That and our experience working with enterprises has been that um, there are different teams and different goals that they have. So it's not just about creating code quickly, but it's also about being able to maintain it, being able to customize whatever the teams have created to a specific customer while keeping the product manageable, right? So, yeah.
When was the exact moment when you realized that, yes, this is the right time to move in? So, as you were doing this since so long now.
Yeah, so we have internal hackathons within our company. So we keep trying to challenge our teams to try out new ideas and come to like they go through a 1 week journey where they we stop whatever we're working on at the product at the time, we stop that and we give people the time to work on hackathon. They work on ideas and come back and present it. It's a very exciting multi-day event. So we started seeing that the trends of okay using Wavemaker along with AI that really change the way the quality of the apps that the teams were able to build was really high, right? So we really saw that, and there was a lot of excitement, right? So when you see when you try something during an evaluation phase, there's a lot of frustration sometimes because there's a learning curve to it. But that was not the case, right? When they started using AI, there was a lot of excitement, and so the evaluation process itself was highly energetic, and then everybody wanted to try it more. So that's when we realized that hey, we need to include this in our product and take it to market.
Wow, wow, that's fascinating. So, now moving to the core expertise of Wavemaker. So, whenever somebody hears about an AI app builder, they just think that, another tool that builds tons of codes that nobody
Hmm.
knows what to do about. But when we talk about Wavemaker, we just pick up a design file, we tell them what to do in simple English, and voila, you have your app. So, how could you make that possible? And if you could give me a breakdown of that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So AI is able to generate code, right? That we know that. So why do we need to go through the design at all, right? Why do have? But the reason is that the process of design and the process of coding are actually two different functions in any creation. So when you're designing, you're focused on what and why, and you want quick iterations. And when you're doing coding, you're focused on how and the technical aspects of it. So there are people who go to who learn how to design things, who learn how to observe their customers, and then come up with a design solution. So the process of design itself is very unique, and it and if you see all of the successes that the products have, like whether it's Uber or iPhone or even Cursor in AI world, they've all won on the user experience, right? So if it was just put a wrapper on top of the AI and then but adoption doesn't come, right? So you need to invest in user experience, and the design process is very very important for that. So the customers, our customers go through these design processes and they create a design, and it's very important for those designs to be translated accurately to code. So At this point, they are not okay with approximate translation, right? Because they've invested so much in their design process and the artifact has been created. So they wanted exactly that. They don't want to revisit those micro decisions that intentionally they put into the design. So they want accuracy, and at the same time they want to be able to sync changes, right? Because it's not going to be one time you have the design and then you convert that to design the code, but you want to be able to iterate because there's a new version of design and then there's a new insight that the design team has included. So you want to be able to iterate. uh, so these two are unique, and we've seen that our customers, when they use AI, they do use it, but they create prototypes and they explore ideas. But when they want to really build a product that they want to deploy to production, they go back to, okay, let's design it, put it in either whatever Figma files or whatever, and then hand it off to engineering. So we felt like, while the existing AI coding platforms focused on just from the prompt you create, and there is a huge market for that. But I feel like for apps that go to production and not stay at the prototype level, you needed to address this design to code journey, and that's what we wanted to.
As you just said that you've added on the step, but most of the apps don't, right? First at Wavemaker, we create that blueprint and then the code, right? But most of the tools out there are skipping onto that step. So what are they missing out on actually if they are skipping onto something that you fill the vacuum of?
Yeah, so this is when AI generates code, the person who is using AI has to own it eventually, right? So they have to understand what the AI has generated. They have to verify whether whatever AI has generated meets the expectations or criteria that they have asked, right? So this validation and going back to AI saying, you know, do it again. So this is extremely important, right? You just can't get the code and then deploy it and then, if something happens, I don't know, we'll just prompt and pray. So that's not going to work, right? So you need a way to verify it very quickly, and you need a way to take control of what AI has created, right? And then so that's what we created with Wavemaker. So with Wavemaker, whatever AI has created, you can experience that, you can validate that, and that happens in the Wavemaker markup language, and then we generate code into Angular or React, what have you. So this abstraction also helps our customers when they want to stay upgraded on the latest version of tech stack, so they don't have to revisit and then go through this engineering project just to upgrade their products, right? So and this is a lot of teams go through this uh, journey where they have a version and they have to upgrade the tech stack, and sometimes it's not easy. And for the businesses, they don't want to really go through this because the product is not changing. It's just the internal the versions of the tech stack that are changing. So they with Wavemaker, you don't really have to invest so much of your the team's time on it.
I think one big differentiation, a point of differentiation that Wavemaker and other coding tools is that it not only creates something like a demo or a mock type prototype, it actually builds the app, right? So how could you make that possible, if I may ask?
Yeah, so when you're right, when you're creating a prototype, you're not worried about the architecture or the how it was built, what are the what are the parts that went into it. But then when you want to deploy to production, right, all of uh, the the have the terms that we use, right, which is it built with the right libraries, is it the component library for the web apps and the mobile apps, is it powerful enough, uh, does it stay accessible for people with challenges when they use the app, these components that are used in this, do they work well, can I internationalize it? So all of these non-functional requirements that the teams have, they have to be met, right? And that is a difference between just having a version that it created and you can quickly prototype it versus something you want to take it to production.
And when we obviously, as we got to know that you worked with brands like Nokia and Blue Yonder. And these companies, they cannot, they don't cannot afford the luxury of experimenting when such huge engineering teams are involved, and there can be a lot of loss that they will bear if something goes here and there, right? So how do they trust a platform like yours?
Yeah, exactly the same. We lead up to this question from my previous answer. Right? So when Blue Yonder wants to create a mobile app for their customers and go to production with it, so they want to keep a core product and then release a extremely customized version for each of their customers, right? So this is a unique aspect that they wanted to solve, and with Wavemaker they could solve that. So they could break down their product into pieces and compose them uniquely for each of their customers, while keeping their costs down instead of re-implementing it for each of their customers, right? And with Nokia, they have an API that they use Wavemaker to visualize uh, the value of the API as a UI components that can be simply dragged and dropped into an application. So sort of like so if you have a payment gateway integration, you get a UI widget that you can simply drop into your app, right? So Nokia has an API that they would like to build a component in Wavemaker so that um, they can easily their customers can easily integrate that into their applications.
Fascinating. And another very interesting thing that we realized that about Wavemaker is that you combine everything: code, canvas, prompts, right?
Mhm.
But most of the tools
Yeah.
fail in that. And of course, I actually wanted to know, if a developer who's watching this, they might question, why do exactly they need Wavemaker? So, what would be your honest response to that?
Yeah, so this is actually our journey to current version of Wavemaker came from uh, our insights into how to address developer productivity. So even now with new tools that are in the market, they are not stopping at chat and then UI. Say they are incorporating smaller UI controls that let users fine tune the app that they're generating without going to the LLM, right? So they're already progressing on this journey, and Waymaker, we already have that product. So that's why the visual canvas is very important, because one, when you interact with LLM, you want to be able to validate what the LLM has generated, so you can do that. And sometimes you don't want to always go back to LLM and chat, because you want a very small change, and that's sometimes might be very quick to do it in a different interface. Uh, because when you go back to the language models and ask for it, it might the surface area that change might it might change multiple files, whereas you're expecting a specific thing to be changed. So that could be very frustrating. So the usage, you want to be able to switch whether you want an explorative use case, are you exploring a solution, then you might want to talk to the language model. But when you know exactly what you want to do, you want to change the pixel size, the gap between a specific UI component, the visual canvas works better.
Yes, 100%. And since so many years you're into this, I guess around more than 15 years that you're building products in the same industry. Another interesting thing that I wanted to know, that, where was it this one moment when you realized that AI actually surprised you? Because you started at Wavemaker in 2018, and back then it was
Hmm.
still very new for people. What was
Yeah.
that moment where you realized that, okay, we're going to solve a lot of problems through this?
Yeah, so one of the things is that the language models and the transformer architecture really change the quality of the outcomes that you can have with AI. Right, even before that, we did use a lot of AI in terms of when customers uploaded a PDF, you extract data from it. So these functions, these features that were built with AI before ChatGPT existed, and we had used it. Um, but then the change came in because of the inference of multiple sources of data and how the language model is able to connect those. So that was a key enhancement that changed the game.
And was there any moment when you realized that, okay, this might not work? Because any professional or anybody who's building a product, they just feel like this might collapse or this might not work in my favor. Was there any moment like that? And what did you do about it?
I would say we took a decision early on in our mobile app journey to stop uh, generating code using hybrid mobile frameworks like Cordova and move our focus to React Native. So at that time, we did have a lot of customers that were relying on that, architecture with Cordova. So that was a really big call we took, uh, and I think it paid out because the quality of mobile apps is better when you use native technologies like React Native. So this was one of the things before AI, right? This is uh, the pivot that we made that was very important.
And now, when we see at your work history, we've seen that you've been on the both sides of the acquisition. One, when your startup
Hmm.
gets acquired by a big company like Autodesk, and second time when again you came back to a smaller company that is Wavemaker at that moment, which was again acquired by VMware. So now that you've been on the both sides, I want to understand, what did you actually get through this journey that you could only understand by going through it twice in different dynamics altogether?
Yeah. So the first one, the context acquisition, was both the product and the team. So we took the product along with the team and worked to integrate that into Autodesk. Uh, so Deepak, the co-founder of Wavemaker, and the team uh, rather acquired from VMware the Wavemaker brand, and then the team. But before I joined them, they changed it from a desktop software to cloud. So they went through that rebranding and uh, essentially rewriting the product at the time. So what I've learned um, is that um, with acquisitions you need to integrate that, you need to assimilate whatever you bought back into when with Autodesk it was about integrating into their product suites, whereas with VMware we needed to really change from being a desktop oriented to a entirely cloud. So you should be able to uh, make value from whatever you brought.
And now that you've seen that there are so many AI coding tools today, AI powered
Yeah.
coding tool, when we see that, anybody who's into this, who's a developer today, they might say that there's
Hmm.
so many people out there. There are other tools like GitHub Copilot, we have Cursor, and we have hundreds of others which
Hmm.
are very similar. So, what exactly differentiates Wavemaker from them, and what is the actual gap that it might bridge for the developers today?
Yeah, so our claim is that we're using Wavemaker AI. You can develop apps that you can take to production. Right. This is our solution. There are, like I said, different kinds of developers who are expert developers who can use Cursor to take control of the code that the AI is generating. But there are teams where uh, they may not have the skill set to create a mobile app that they can use Wavemaker because Wavemaker can show you exactly in the using the visual canvas what AI has generated, and they can modify it using the visual canvas app and the chat interface. So the target audience is slightly different, and our claim is that whatever you create in Wavemaker, you can take it to production, not just for version 1, but you can use that product to become version 2, 3, and stay on the top of it.
And yet again, you are talking about the AI speed, at a very predictable cost, and you're guaranteeing quality. But that's what exactly most of the other AI tools or platforms are promising, right? So, what is your positive or honest answer on this, which backs up your case in the case of Wavemaker, if we talk about it?
So for both web apps and mobile apps, the architecture of the generated code is very important. So Wavemaker generated architecture it is secure, it scales well, and we've already proven that because Wavemaker built applications are live, biggest banks in US and India have used it to deploy their apps. So our component library and our the architecture with which we generate the code is really high, and we also have a design system that is underpinning all of the Wavemaker apps, which makes the design to code journey really precise.
There's a growing fear in all the developers today that platforms like Wavemaker might make software jobs unnecessary, in a few days.
Hmm.
But you've argued a lot of times that this might augment the developers, but not completely replace them. So if you could again tell our audience watching this right now about how you see this whole scenario.
Yeah, so we are definitely going through a lot of change, and it's very difficult to predict what the future might hold.
Mm.
But at the same time, when you're creating an application or when you're creating a product, the systemic thinking that you need to develop the product, that's not going to go away. The tools that you use, that they're going to change.
Mm.
And what happens when something becomes easier to create is that more of it gets created.
True.
Right? So, and we've seen this time and again everywhere. So, when there is more software that is getting created, um, what happens then? All of that software has to be managed. It may be an entirely different way the software is managed, but then that's going to be the case. So, because my thinking is that if it's going to become easier and there's going to be more of it, then people who can use AI and then be productive, and those are the ones that are going to be part of this new way of working.
And what if we talk and look at an engineering team that is working at a large company and they want to build something with AI today, right? And
Yeah.
what are their few things that they've been doing really wrong since day one, which they should take care of, if you could guide them as an expert of the same?
I think they should look at from kind of a first principles, the way the work flows, or the way work happens within their teams in engineering teams, and see exactly what problem might be better solved with AI. Is it designed to code? Uh, is it something else? Or and think really big in terms of AI adoption. And not really only limit themselves to using it in one way. There is agentic. There are so many types of coding tools now. You have to stay. You have to experiment a lot, and it's really frustrating because there's something new, every week. So it could get kind of overwhelming. But you have to have a strong vision about how the engineering team is going to use the AI, and then drive adoption by really giving them the right tools.
So my last question to you before we hop onto the rapid fire is that that you've been building software products for more than 15 years now, right? So if I could ask you that what does actually success means to you, not to a company, not to a product or a software platform, but actually for you, and how close are you to it today?
Okay, that's a good question. Uh, yeah. So this is for me. When I see the people in my team and they achieve success, growth, at the whatever success we've had as a team, that makes me happy. So that's what success means to me. To see the people that I work with, they're having really good time and doing some of the best work that they've done in their careers so far.
That's really sweet of you, sir. So now let's move on and hop to our rapid fire round. Are you ready for it?
All right, yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, my first question goes to engineer or product manager. Which one are you at heart?
Product manager.
Okay. The AI coding tool you actually use yourself every day. Okay. Autodesk or Wavemaker? Which one taught you more about building products?
Wavemaker.
One word for where enterprise AI and software development really is right now.
One word, okay. That would be transforming.
Wow. The type of app that AI still cannot build reliably, no matter what any vendor says.
Oh, okay. anything that might use a proprietary data set or something, yeah, that might require a lot more training.
Interesting. So that's it. Thank you so much for being at Tech Unplugged. And I loved your insights and how transparently you just answered all of these questions, which our audience might be very keen to understand and get your insights in. So thank you so much for giving your time to Tech Unplugged. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Tech Unplugged. And honestly, I learned so much from this conversation today that there are a lot of things that are going to stay with me forever. Because Prashant has this rare ability to cut through the noise and discuss on how an AI product is actually made in the real world. So, if you're a developer, a product manager, or a founder, or anybody who wants to figure out anything in the software industry, this episode is for you. So, go listen to it once again as there is a lot to hear in it. Also, don't forget to share it with one person in your team or anybody in your network who's building product for a living. If you really want to know and find a LinkedIn details of Prashant, we will put that in our description link. And if you want to understand what Wavemaker does, you can go and explore yourself on wavemaker.com. This is it for this episode at Tech Unplugged. Until then, keep questioning and keep building.